Hey guys, it's Bobby Stroupe. You might have seen me in the quarterback series. I'm here with Proteus Motion, and today we're going to play it back. All right, we have it pulled up, so let's dive in.
The flip side of that from a physiological standpoint is your vision, the mobility you have in your spine and your neck. There are quarterbacks that when they're rolling right, they can't turn their head, and some that can. Patrick can keep his head perfectly still like an owl and still be able to visually see what's going on here and also manipulate his body due to the mobility that he has in his spine.
This is a concept of real and relative rotation. His ability to be able to keep his head still when there's all this chaos around him and when he's moving. He could be running 17 miles an hour to the right, he could be running 18 miles an hour to the left, but what I'm looking at is his ability to keep his head still with all these things happening, with chaos of receivers running different directions and people chasing him, pursuing him from all different angles. So the ability to keep your head still is paramount because that's one less thing that you have to worry about while you're solving all these problems simultaneously. One of the very best ways to get that is to add rotational components where there's real and relative rotational components in a training element. And Proteus allows us to do that in so many ways.
How fast can you rotate and swivel that part of your body independently of the
The
rest
same
of your body?
movements you see in those clips,
Patrick has
you
strength
can
in his
see him
spine.
doing with his body in these clips with Proteus, keeping his head still,
Patrick has speed in his
trying
spine.
to, and then being able to move.
And he actually is one of the only athletes that I've ever worked with that can swing a bat within 3% full speed rotating to his right and his left.
You want to be able to have the same range of motion in as far as how far you can rotate and the shape in which you can rotate. So magnitude and amplitude, those are two different things, but being able to get distance out and also in a range of motion and circumference both ways. If you don't have that equality, then you're going to have limitations when you're moving at a high velocity going in one direction or the other. So what we want to try to achieve for a quarterback is the ability to solve as many problems as possible no matter where you're at in the field of play. Well, if you have a limited rotational capability going to the right, then that means you probably have a limited ability to torque your spine when you're running to the left. These things are easy to quantify by just saying, okay, do I have more than a 5 to 7% deficit in my rotation to the right versus my rotation to the left? Now that could be quantified by meters per second. It could be quantified by range of motion. The Proteus has a lot of different metrics that we can follow. And these things are so important to develop in as many ways as possible because of the dynamic demands of playing the quarterback position specifically. So there's a few things that we look at in conjunction with a lot of the other different types of movements that we do on the Proteus, but this one in particular is really obvious in that you can see very obviously if an athlete has that capability. There's 4 stages of learning a skill in the athletic development. There's the unconscious incompetence, meaning they can't do it and they don't know how to do it. Then there's conscious incompetence. They're aware of it, but they still cannot do it very well. And then there's conscious competence, meaning you're here, you're focused on it, and you can perform it. And then there's unconscious competence, which is right before mastery, where you're not thinking about these concepts, but they're actually happening on the field of play. You've got to be able to get to that level by passing through other levels of coaching and skill development and physiological development. And obviously, Proteus is a great tool for this particular athletic skill. All right,
And what we like to do is have an A day, a B day, and a C day in season.
Referring to the A day, B day, and C day.
An A day is focused on rejuvenation, renewing of the tissue. This involves a lot of manipulating the body in space.
A days are day after the game. So on a Sunday to Sunday week, this is Monday. Everyone knows how they feel after a game, no matter what the competition is. Everything just feels crunchy. Everything feels stiff. So for us on A day, it's really about getting the body back to that level 0. It's about making sure that we have the ranges of motion we need in our body. Where a lot of the mistakes are made, I feel like, is trying to get athletes to just feel good enough to practice. Then you practice with these compensations, and then you get into the game and you're not prepared to play in the way that you play. We're taking the wrinkles out of the sheets, we're getting the body ready to go. On the Proteus, we're going heavy, and we're going full range of motion, and we're going high reps. Why? I want to reset the body. I want to work towards, by our 20th rep, we're getting the best range of motion we've got. I don't care about the velocity on an A day. I care about completing the repetitions and getting the desired range of motion by the end of the 20 reps. That's the goal. And specifically to those fascial systems, the 12 different lines, we're trying to make sure that the body is in full function as it goes with those fascial lines.
Checking to see if everything works the way it should. Get to 0, get to base.
Another thing that I really like is showing the dumbbell rotations and showing that, look, we're working on the mechanism here of the humerus being able to rotate and the arm to be able to go overhead. Any athlete that's moving and protruding this way, now we have a range of motion deficit here. We have a mobility deficit here. We've got to get that. And I want to get those things before I get on a machine like the Proteus. Because if I can attack those things now, in this movement literacy approach where, okay, now I'm doing dumbbell movements in different variations. I don't like what I'm seeing there. Now I need to do mobility in order to get us prepared to do something that's even more complex. All right, now moving on to B-Day. B-Day is my favorite day.
B-Day is focused on movement literacy.
B-Day is the hardest day. You're riding that cup of, are they really ready for this? And it's kind of put up or shut up time when it comes to B-Day. You've got plyometrics, like real plyometrics, high amplitude, high load. If you're a once a week type of competitor, then they're probably not ready for full speed yet, but they are ready to be loaded. And they are ready for the work. They are ready for the week. So this day you've got to bring it. What they're particularly showing is more complex movements, like a reverse lunge and a bound. And a lot of times these things are going to be supersetted. And the reason is because you load and explode, load and explode. The test is the exercise, and the exercise is the test. When you're the coach, you're watching, you're evaluating. Your movement screen is every single rep that these athletes are doing, especially on an A day and a B day. So if you'll notice, a lot of the movements that are on A day are repetitive on B day. It's just the load and the stimulus are different. You need to understand that what you're exposing these athletes to creates an adaptation. You want to create specific adaptations that are unique and different and subtle from day to day. You don't need to change the movements as often as you think. You can have repetitive movements and different adaptations if there's subtleties and changes in the types of resistance.
Moving in the way he needs to move on Sunday.
Med ball throws, med ball holds, there's a difference in what you're going for. Any type of loaded, weighted ball holds, towel drills, Proteus, all these things are substantial as far as being able to give me what I want from a neurotrophic growth hormone release and that anabolic flood into those areas of the body that I need for healing properties and also for adaptations to kick in later on in the week. So on to C-Day.
And then C-Day is full speed.
C-Day is almost like a track meet. Everything is blistering speed. It's as fast as possible and neurological exposures that are much higher than what they're going to get in the game. I want him to move from a meters per second standpoint way faster than any movement he would in the game. Great players don't play too fast because they play within themselves. They look calm, trying to get the body in the most chaotic environment possible so that the game in comparison is a very calm environment.
Have movements that are faster than any movement he'd do in the game. Because then where he's going to operate, the game is going to feel very slow. It's going to feel very comfortable.
If everything goes the direction we want it to, then you feel superhuman on that third day. Everything's one set. You're inside of 4 or 5 repetitions. You should feel unweighted, unloaded. It's lightweight. You're moving faster than you ever have. It's everything for them going into competition, knowing these are the tools that I get to work with this week. And oh, by the way, in these areas, this is the best I've ever been. And that is a huge confidence boost going into those competitions.
That's Friday in the books, man. Body looks prime and ready.
Now we're going into episode 7.
What these scores do, it makes the athlete hone in on that game type of mentality that he needs to start to move towards.
Anytime you rank and record something with an athlete, I don't care who you are, there's a certain amount of pride that goes into where someone's ranked. So if you want to get maximal effort from an athlete, tell them what their best score is, tell them what they're doing, and tell them what your expectations are. These numbers, they mean a lot more than your data, than your tracking. I need a behavioral change in outcome from the number, not the number for the number's sake. So when it comes to these numbers, I'm trying to create physiological change, but a psychological approach as well. Many of these athletes that play professional sports, they may only get 2 calls that are plays that go their way. They can't drop that pass. They can't miss that route. They can't slip on the grass. This is the difference, right? So if you get a chance to get that, heighten that neurological state, that emotional state in workouts, this is a subconscious way to prepare them for those moments as well. All right, first thing that they're gonna show is a punch. What you're gonna see is a little recoil from left to right, and then a punch across the body. Now you notice on this, he's turning his head, and there is an internal rotation of the back hip, there's a blocking of the front hip. That is important because this is a max velocity, max power type movement, and we're doing 1 rep because we're trying to get a PR on meters per second. If you listen closely, it says I'm looking for 5 meters per second on this, and then he goes and he hits it immediately. If we have a goal, I like to state the goal right before the rep, and it is not uncommon for athletes to go get that exact number. There's a deep emotional and subconscious state of the athlete that if you speak to it, sometimes you can awaken those things. And the better the athletes, the better they can go and perform to those exact things.
Speed and power and strength. Speed, keep climbing. And that's what we want to do as we make this playoff run.
Everybody knows probably by now that I love curvilinear speed and curvilinear sprints. I think that fits right in line with all the different philosophies in the programming when it comes to C-Day. We'll literally measure miles per hour on backward running speed on a weekly basis, curvilinear speed on a weekly basis, and straight line speed. And that's something that I believe an athlete needs to know what physical tools they have of their own going into the competition. When you think of something simple like Mario Kart, and you've got your car's capabilities, right? If you pick Bowser, you know he's slow, but he's strong. You need to know what you're racing with on game day. And so on these C-Days, I love for an athlete to know exactly, okay, hey, you got a hurt shoulder, here's what you still can do. The way that Proteus lines up into my training philosophy is movement literacy. Movement literacy is how many ways can you move effectively, how many ways can you move efficiently, and how much power and speed can you produce. The Proteus machine offers so much variability as far as being able to quantify those exact things. Movement literacy as far as being able to rotate your arm. Like your humerus is gonna rotate, it can rotate up to 9,000 meters per second. You're not gonna get that from any type of lift or even Olympic lift in one plane of motion. So being able to do that in a punching motion and measure the rate of force, the meters per second, the range of motion, that's everything. And so you take that and you divide that up into as many movements as you can think of that are applicable, and that's the type of tool you have with Proteus. So that's it for the Play It Back deep dive. Thanks for watching, and we've got a lot more content coming your way. Can't wait to show you more things that we're doing and more ways to utilize this awesome machine. Hey, so I wanted to give a quick shout out to Proteus in general for creating a tool that we can actually measure some of these crazy training ideas that so many people have had. And now to be able to have the opportunity to see numbers and to be able to put this into action, that's everything. And it's something that we'll never would have thought possible. It's really cool that we all have a tool that we have access to now, where we can take athletes and take this movement literacy concept and actually put it into motion with our athletes. So thanks again, Proteus, for all you're doing. And I can't wait to see what's coming.